question regarding the tape again. I just want to know, does the second tape suggest that indeed the initial tape, which went viral, is a doctored one?
It seems to be the case because the second tape is one which is a very long discussion, which I can come to some understanding that they do not dispute.
Well, here we are back in the studio as we get into our big stories, and we're going to be talking about everything in between. We had to play that tape to set the tone for the pot boiler, the start to the conversation we're about to have. But here in the studio, we have Murtala Mohammed, Member of Parliament, Tamale Central. Sometimes he's, when you see him on the floor of Parliament doing his thing, the last time I saw him in some deep waters, it was with Ursula Akufo.
You call that deep waters.
A very good morning to you, sir.
Thanks
for joining us in the studio.
I ignore your mischievous...
mischievous? Why mischievous?
What do you mean by deep waters?
You were but that day it was fiery on the floor of Parliament.
I mean, that's...
People were, doing your... Okay, so this morning when Murtala came in, you remember there was this time about a year and a half ago or so, I think, when he came and he did some renditions in patois. Can you do something for us this morning? Any greetings?
I'm not gonna do anything. Anything in patois.
Why you say?
Why I say?
Why you say? He was telling me that I was speaking patois. So
me say nothing.
You said nothing?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you share some greetings with the members of your constituency in patois? If it's not in patois, you are not doing it. Anyway, good to have you on the show this morning.
Good to be here.
Before we get into that tape that we played, I think it's only fitting, as I always do. What's Tamale Central been like? When was the last time you were there?
And I was in Tamale about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And apparently I was in Tamale on official assignment.
Apparently?
Yes, because I serve on Public Accounts Committee.
Oh, right.
And so I went to Tamale a week before, came back to Accra, and I had to go back to Tamale because of the work of the Public Accounts Committee. The country is zoned, into 4. So the 5 northern regions, the public hearing takes place in Tamale. So I was in Tamale, specifically for parliamentary work, but I took advantage at least to meet youth groups in the night. We start the sitting at 9 and sometimes we finish around 7, depending on the schedule for the day. So I was taking advantage of the time to meet youth groups. And in fact, in the morning, when I needed to attend funerals or outdoors before the sitting begins, I do so. So that's why I said apparently I was in Tamale for the purposes of parliamentary work. That was 2 weeks ago. And from Tamale, we moved to Sinyani. Okay. So we spent a week again in Sinyani, then came back to Accra. This weekend, we shall be, inshallah, in Ho for Volta, Eastern, Greater Accra, and the other regions, the new region.
Okay.
And from there, we'll move to Takoradi.
Okay.
For Central, Western, and then the Western North. That's what we do.
Right.
So by which time, we are looking at the 2021 Auditor General's report because we want to clear the backlog. Remember, that was the objective we set. So hopefully, once we are done, we shall begin with the 2022 Auditor General's report so that we do not have the backlog. Because this was a major criticism, particularly coming from the media, why we will be doing this. So what we are doing, when we are doing what you expected us to do, you need to give us the credit.
So we give you credit for that. Thank you for at least responding to what we've called for over the years. It includes the Auditor General and the fact that we feel a lot of the time it is not proactive. It tends to be retrospective. So we want a system where when the thing is happening, you can clamp down on it. Don't wait for the loss to happen before. But thankfully, if you look at the losses of the Auditor General, for example, cited by the Auditor General, the last time over 99 or 97% were recoverable, which is good. Whether they will be recovered is another point altogether.
I think that has to do with the Attorney General too. It's important, and I say this with profound conviction and concern, that you remember there were a lot of procurement breaches and other infractions, and how far Parliament can go, a committee of Parliament can go. We do our public hearing, we submit our report as a committee to plenary, and then plenary then takes a decision. A lot of institutions and individuals were recommended for prosecution, including Francis Essam.
Really?
Yes, including Francis Essam.
The cylinder.
Yes. And in fact, the committee unanimously agreed that she should be prosecuted. We sent the report to plenary, and it was adopted. It means that even in the entire House agreed that Francis Essam and other individuals should be prosecuted. Over a year now.
I was about to ask, what has happened to that? Because
and I'm bringing it to fore so that you guys can demand from the Minister for Justice and Attorney General.
But what are the actionable, means to be followed?
The purposes or the purpose for the public hearing is that when the Auditor General submits its report to Parliament, Mr. Speaker then refers the report to the appropriate committee, in this case, the Public Accounts Committee. We then provide an opportunity for the people who have been cited by the Auditor General to come and justify why they think that they should not be surcharged or they should not be prosecuted, depending on the recommendation of the Auditor General.
And the AG has that, the Auditor General has those powers, surcharging, disallowance, and then retrieval of the sums.
Let me just conclude how the process is done. So we provide people who have been cited in institutions the opportunity to come and justify through the public hearing.
Right.
There are instances where people have come and then we realize that the Auditor General erred. And the committee will recommend that no, make the necessary payment. And the payments would have been effected even before they appear before the committee. Mind you, wherever you go, we have officials of the Auditor General and the various Auditor General, employees and people within the districts and regions. Now, when we bring our report as a committee to plenary and it is adopted, we then submit same to the Minister for Justice and Attorney General for prosecution. So at that stage, it gets out of the domain of the legislature. It is now the responsibility of the executive arm, in this case, the Minister for Justice.
Are you then saying that there has been the lack of will from the executive to pursue? And I ask that question in context.
Yeah.
You remember recently at the Ghana Bar Conference, Mr. President spoke about corruption. I can fish out what exactly he said, but he made mention of the fact that his administration had come to the forefront in the fight against corruption, doing everything. Let me just quote. Let me just quote, Mr. President. I think I can find what I shared from. Yes, he says, "My government has taken boldest initiative to fight corruption since independence. My government has taken the boldest initiative to fight corruption since independence." Now, these accusations, for example, Francis Essam, what are they? What do they border on?
Did you believe the president when he said he has taken the boldest decision? Everybody knows that he even fight those who are fighting corruption. So for the president to make that statement, for me, it was the biggest joke of the year. Everybody knows. Check
the office of the special prosecutor has been
what was the verdict
set up.
What was the verdict?
Hasn't it?
What was the verdict of the person?
In fact, the first person to head that institution was from your party, Martin Alamisi Benz-Kaiser.
Everybody knows that he appointed Alamisi. He appointed Martin Amidu to witch hunt and this, and there was nothing he could witch hunt. And in any case, what was the verdict of Mr. Martin Amidu? The verdict was that the president was a mother serpent for corruption. What is the verdict of even the current, head of the
he's allowed the processes, the law to take its course. Cecilia Dapa?
Oh, but he has indicated the frustrations that he has gone through. He has indicated the fact that the resources and the tooling that would ensure that he discharges his responsibilities effectively have been denied to him deliberately by this government. So everybody knows all reputable institutions clothed with the capacity to determine whether a government is corrupt or not, the Afro-barometer of the CDD, the Corruption Perception Index, they've all rated this government to be the most corrupt ever in our history. What President Mahama, the lowest of President Mahama, which was 43, is what this government or this president is celebrating. Everybody in this country knows that the Flagstaff House is the citadel for corruption. The extent to which... why?
But by what standards?
If
With what evidence are you saying?
If the Flagstaff House could add over $800 million to a merry negotiation, that was thievery. That was not corruption.
You're taking us all the way back to Boache Jaku.
But I'm saying that, not Boache Jaku, the addition was done from the Flagstaff House. It took the vigilance.
No, but it was within that
I'm saying that the addition,
leadership.
Boache Jaku, I think on your same program.
Yeah, I know what he said about. I know what he said about getting calls and all.
I'm saying that over $800 million, but for the vigilance of the NDC members of Parliament in the 7th Parliament, it would have been in someone's pocket. So I'm saying that it is very clear that this government has perfected corruption. And frankly, President Nana Addo is the lead of the choir in terms of how this country could be, the resources of this country.
I get that from where you sit, you would want to say that. But I say, what are the tangibles? What can you pin on Mr. President?
I have just told you
saying this.
The $800 million was added from the Flagstaff House.
And you can prove that it was Nana Addo who signed off on that? Who wanted that to be done?
Seriously?
No, I'm just asking you. In a court of law,
the president doesn't sign even letters. Someone signs letters for and on behalf of the president. So if the person engages in anything wrong, who takes the responsibility? Who does? So I'm saying that this president, that statement was a joke. He is the most corrupt leader ever in the history of this country. You see, he hoodwinked Ghanaians into believing that he was coming to fight corruption with these fake slangs. The president in any attempt, you see in this country, if you speak English in a funny way, people tend to listen to you.
I think that's a low blow to say that fake slangs and all of that. The president has spoken this way. The president has spoken this way since we've known him. Since even when he was engaging former president.
But did I say?
Do you remember when he was communications minister? He's spoken like this.
But I never said he started the fake slanging today. I didn't say that.
What makes it fake?
Kofi Annan had worked with the United Nations for several years, lived in America. I'm saying I lived in America for several years. He didn't come with a fake slang. You saw even appointees. My good friend, what's the name? The Adjo Asafo. Have you watched her videos? She's also trying to slang. Because they believe that if you slang the people of this country, listen. So this president, he's the most corrupt ever. Tell me one single state institution or single independent institution with the capacity to determine how corruption is pervasive in our society that hasn't said that President Nana Addo fight for corruption. It's a joke. Look, Professor Jumobuidu, when he was interviewed, they asked him the fight against corruption by the president. You remember what he said? He said it's in tatters. Yeah. It's in tatters. The CDD Afrobarometer described this president, this government, as the most corrupt. In fact, we chalked 41% under this government.
Do you think then that Mr. President and
you remember in this country, when we were told by one of the lead candidates for the MPP flag bearership, Canada, Japan said, even as an MPP member, for you to have access to the president, you need to pay $20,000. What has happened to it? The president on that day also said that, every allegation of corruption have been investigated.
Let's narrow it down.
The cash for seat investigation was done by Parliament, not the executive.
I see you going down memory lane. Let me do this. Let me ask the questions. So, do you feel then that there is a disjointedness, that there is some disconnect as far as the reality versus what maybe Mr. President and those in establishment may see? And I want you to narrow it down quickly because I want us to move on to other things. Also to Francis Isiam. You've made mention of her name. You are on the Public Accounts Committee. Yeah. What exactly, if you recall, are some of the things she has done, the infractions? Very quickly, because it has been supposedly, I don't want to use the term swept under the carpet, but we've not heard of this.
Yeah, not that. But
so if it must come to the fore, I just want you to bring it up because this could stoke a conversation on it.
It was on
and we could speak to the AG
It was public hearing. The thing was done publicly by the GTV. And in fact...
No, I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm just saying that since that time, there has been no action.
I have just told you what Parliament needs to do. Maybe someone will ask as a member of Parliament, a member of the committee, what did you do? I have told you that after we finish with our work, the committee is made up of equal numbers of NDC members and MPP members. Of course, the chair of the committee is an NDC member.
Right.
We all agreed unanimously that Francis Isiam be prosecuted, as recommended by the Auditor General in the Auditor General's report. Submitted same to plenary in Parliament. And the 275 members adopted the position taken by the committee.
So the committee unanimously accepted.
Yes.
At the plenary, unanimously
accepted that she should be prosecuted and many others. I don't want to limit it to her. The reason why I mention her name because she is a political appointee. There are other civil servants and public servants. You see,
what were the infractions? What were the infractions?
They were procurement breaches. I mean, sometimes outright recklessness in terms of doing things without following the law. We have laws, financial regulations, and acts that regulates the conduct of anybody who manages state resources. Now, the Committee of Parliament submitted the report. Parliament adopted the report of the committee. We submitted same to the Auditor General over a year. Over a year. Yet that same woman sat on TV and says NDC was corrupt, people were corrupt. I'm saying that over a year. So why is the Minister for Justice and Attorney General not willing to prosecute
Are there any ways beyond the fourth realm, the media?
Yeah.
You're putting it out.
Yeah.
We'll likely follow up on this. Beyond what we can do, what legally can be done to ensure that in instances like this, maybe, I wouldn't say force the arm of the Attorney General.
If you go to court
but
today,
push for the right thing.
If you go to court today, assuming, on what basis are you going to court to demand that she should be prosecuted and the others who were cited? The Attorney General will tell you that they are in the process of prosecuting. But justice delayed, they say justice denied. Why is it taking the Attorney General over a year and nothing is being said about it? This is not the first time I'm making this comment. I've been making this comment on several platforms. Why is the Attorney General not willing? And it is not only Francis Essam. Many other public servants and civil servants.
Why do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. Someone should tell me. The only reason I can give is that because she is an MPP activist. And again, that defeats...
But that would not be justice.
Well, but is there justice in this country?
Is there not?
There isn't.
There isn't?
There isn't. If there was justice in this country, I don't think that those people would not be prosecuted. The president and the government is willing to prosecute people when they have interest. But where they are not interested, they don't give a hoot about any prosecution. Because I have just asked. Look, when we were taking the decision to adopt this report at the committee, there wasn't any objection from our friends from the MPP. No, on the committee. When we brought the report to Parliament and debated it, at the end of the day, it was unanimously agreed that she and many others who were cited by the Auditor General be prosecuted. Over a year, why is the Minister for Justice and Attorney General not willing to prosecute them? Why?